Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 12th. Alonso signs, Schwarber signs, Diaz signs, Suarez signs, more. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? What a week. Thank you, winter meetings, because boy, have things started to shape up for 2026. Plenty of signings have happened, and we've got a big episode on the way, guys. Let me tell you, thank you. Finally, we got moves. We got things to talk about. Things happened during the winter meetings, and we're going to start and dive into things. Kyle Schwarber, he has signed. He is staying with the Philadelphia Phillies. It's a 5-year deal worth $150 million. The DH, man, the big 50-plus home run hitter last season. This guy has become quite the threat as he ages. We remember him as this young, little Cubs phenom, right? When he first debuted back in 2015, ends up winning with them in 2016, despite not really playing a big part in the regular season, only playing 2 games that year. But since then, he's gone from the Cubs. He signed with Washington. He's gone to Boston. And since that year in 2021, where he was an all-star and, was with Boston when they went to the postseason that year, he's been with the Phillies in the last 4 years, from 2022 onward. And he has been a 2-time all-star. He has a Silver Slugger, and he's finished top 20 in MVP voting in all of the last 4 years with the Phillies, including coming second last year, only behind Mr. Shohei Ohtani himself. In an 11-year big league career, nearly 20 points of WAR. And again, that's a skewed number these days, but remember, this guy was out there in left field. Hell, he started as a catcher when he was with the Cubs. A lot has happened since this year, and for many years, he's more so just been a DH type of hitter. And that's what it is. He's got a great bat. He's got a tough glove. It's a lot of money to shell out for someone who's just kind of hogging your DH spot. But then again, the Dodgers have Ohtani as their designated hitter, right? Some teams switch in and out, use the DH to give guys some off days, give guys, a chance to still get their bat in the lineup but not have to worry about playing the outfield. And then you got some teams who want a guy who's, not good at defense and just this power bat and to hold up a spot in the lineup. We know what Schwarber's done. 56 home runs last year. He hit 46 when he was with the Phillies in 2022, 47 the following year. Last year had 38 before this year, where he had 56. In the 4 years span with the Phillies, he has 187 home runs. With the rest of the home runs he's hit, he's all the way up to 340. And it would not surprise me if this guy hits 60 home runs this year and gets to 400 towards the end of the season. It's an important move for the Phillies. Schwarber's been a huge part of that team going forward the last 2-3 seasons. Him and Bryce have really been a problem. And Schwarber's been, one of those prolific leadoff hitters. He's usually used in the leadoff role. And, how many games have the Phillies started, 5 pitches into the game, they're up 1-0 because Schwarber hits a leadoff bomb? That makes a lineup sometimes. Getting that first run on the board, it makes your pitchers calm down. Look how good Phillies' rotation's been the last couple of years with the likes of guys like Wheeler and Suarez and Nola, all of which kind of uncertainty now. But even then, you still got Christopher Sanchez. The guys keep coming up the wings. And having this lockdown offense of now, Harper, Turner, it's like, okay, Schwarber, if Schwarber would have signed elsewhere, that's a big bat to lose. But I think the Phillies could have still managed to kind of shop around and get things done. But it's a big loss. It's a guy that they needed to have. It's a guy who, obviously there's Bryce Harper and there's other notable names there, but Schwarber is one of those faces of that franchise the last couple of years. He's a big part to Philly. Obviously, he wanted to stay, and obviously the Phillies want him to stay as well. They're able to work upon a deal, and everyone's happy, except for the teams that were in on him. Teams like Baltimore, teams like the Reds, and the Pirates were the three teams that we know had made offers to Schwarber. Orioles apparently had matched the offer from Philly 1-to-1, so 5 years, 150 was what Baltimore was doing. The Reds and the Pirates, on the other hand, had offers out there for 4 years ranging from 120 to 125. So similar AAV, just with that less year. All in all, when I think of, hey, Pirates, Reds, Oilers, or Phillies, I would lean Phillies as well, Schwarber. So no harm, no foul there. Kyle Schwarber staying with the Fightin' Phils. They lock up a DH. Good for them. And, of course, good for Philly. Let's move on here. We've got the next free agent that came off the board signing was Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz is signing with the defending World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. It's a 3-year, $69 million deal. This is the highest AAV for a reliever that we've ever seen. And I find this move interesting on multiple aspects, to be fair. One thing for certain, Edwin Diaz, he's a very up and down relief pitcher in my mind. That's how I view him. We've seen him be incredible. Of course, that 2018 with Seattle comes to mind, where he had a 1.96 ERA with 50-something saves, 57 saves. He was an all-star that year, his first all-star appearance. Great. He then goes to the Mets. That first year he's with the Mets, a 5.59 ERA. You're like, okay, what the heck? We just traded away part of our future for this guy, and he's not good. The following year, he comes back. It's COVID year, mind you. He comes back to the tune of a 1.75 ERA. Again, COVID year, shortened sample size. You're thinking, okay, what do we get in 2021? It was a solid year, a 3.45 ERA. He wasn't great, wasn't bad. He was just a solid guy. Then in 2022, he came back to the form that we saw, an incredible year with a 1.31 ERA across 61 games, a 3.2 WAR in 62 innings with 118 strikeouts. Absolutely filthy. He finishes 9th in Cy Young voting that year, second All-Star. Then does not play. He got injured for the World Baseball Classic. He's out of 2023, comes back 2024, and again has this okay-ish year, a 3.52 ERA. That's a really solid year for a reliever and for a closer, but not a guy that you pay, so much money, especially for a guy in your bullpen. Bullpen pieces come and go like that. To be paying a lot for a guy to put up a 3.5 ERA isn't ideal, but last year comes back a 1.63 ERA across 62 games, 66 innings. Didn't have his elite strikeout stuff, but still 98 strikeouts, his third All-Star appearance. So what are you getting? You're getting a guy who's 9 years into his career with nearly 1,000 strikeouts to his name in what is 519 innings. It's very impressive stuff regardless. 3-time All-Star. He is a 3-time winner of the Reliever of the Year, 1 in the AL and 2 in the NL. So you're getting a guy who has the ceiling of the best reliever in baseball. The floor is just another guy in the Dodgers' pen. Of course, the Dodgers, very good team. If you're going to point to one reason why they almost lost the World Series, you would definitely look at pitching and specifically that bullpen. And, for the Dodgers, you got to get better, I guess, if that's the plan. What's the part of your team that sucks the most? The bullpen. Who's the best guy in the bullpen? Edwin Diaz. All right, let's get it done. Done and dusted. And I mean, I don't know what to say about the Dodgers anymore, man. They just got to keep spending this money and keep doing these things. And everyone's going to want to beat the Dodgers. It's going to be the whole MO when we go into 2026, when we go into 2027, when we go into 2028, beat the Dodgers. That's going to be the name of the game. The Dodgers are basically just playing for October. They're a lock for the postseason. Like a catastrophic failure of a season would need to go down for the Dodgers to somehow miss the postseason. Scratch that. To lose a division, even to win as a wild card, you got to be scratching your head being like, where did the Dodgers go wrong with this kind of team? The Dodgers last year, they went out, they grabbed Tanner Scott, who was one of the top bullpen arms of that year, and he had a really tough year. When healthy, he wasn't great, and then got hurt. So he just kind of had a really tough year. Again, it's a first year with a new team. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for a player to adjust. So I'm very interested to see how this works for Edwin Diaz. Again, he was with Seattle at the start of his career, had 3 really solid seasons. That first year, he went to New York. That was his career worst year of 5.59. Are we into seeing something like that again this year? New team, new, atmosphere, a career worst ERA, or is he, going back to the West Coast where he's familiarized with that with Seattle and just kind of balls out, shells, and is this Dodgers elite force in the back end? Very curious to see what we're going to get here from Edwin Diaz, but he is joining the best team in baseball in the Los Angeles Dodgers. Everyone cries in fear and misery, but who knows? Maybe it backfires on them. Like I said, longest AAV or highest AAV ever for a relief pitcher. So good stuff for Edwin Diaz and for the Dodgers. I mean, you're going to keep spending money, so who cares? Moving on here, we've got another big fish signing. Like I said, the winter meetings did us a huge favor in terms of the offseason to get the ball rolling down this hill. The stove was hot. But here's a guy who's ice cold in his veins, the pistol polar bear, Pete Alonso, the face of the New York Mets, is no longer a face on the Mets. He is going to Baltimore. Who saw this coming? Pete Alonso signing with the Baltimore Orioles, 5 years, $155 million. Like I said, there were certain guys who are kind of placeholders in an offseason every single year. Once one of those placeholders go, you see this kind of domino effect. For Pete Alonso, the clear, domino was Kyle Schwarber. You see a guy like that, power hitter, sign, you see his deal, whatever. Pete Alonso's agent's able to, okay, well, if he's worth this much, I'm with this much. And you got to think, who's the better hitter, Schwarber or Alonso? I would lean Schwarber the last couple of years, but Schwarber is just a guy who DHs. Pete Alonso, he's a pretty decent glove at first base. He will have his errors from time to time, but he is definitely, for a big guy, he gets around there at first base a little bit. So you think, okay, he can play first, has a good bat still. What are we looking for? Baltimore ends up spending 5 years. They offered Schwarber 5 years, $150. He doesn't sign, so okay, we'll take that. Go give it to Pete Alonso. We'll add $5 million on it, and now we have our first baseman for 2026. Pete Alonso is a Rookie of the Year winner. He's got a Silver Slugger to his name. Of course, a 2-time Home Run Derby champion, but not only that, he's got 5. Yes, that's right, 5 All-Star appearances with the New York Mets. A very solid career. In, last 4 years he's been an All-Star. 2022, 3, 24, and 25. All 7 years with the New York Mets. He played in just over 1,000 games with the team with 264 home runs, which is the Mets' all-time home run record. He broke that this season. And then he was like, okay, goodbye, I'm going to Baltimore. I mean, it's really funny. And we're going to get into the Mets aspect of this in a second here, but for Pete Alonso and for Baltimore, I mean, this kind of seems like a match made in heaven in a way. I mean, when I think of Pete Alonso and I think of, where he could have signed, it's hard with some guys like Alonso where you've seen them play 6, 7, 8 years with a team, and, they hit a free agency year, and you're like, okay, well, this team could use a first baseman, and you can kind of see it fitting, but, like, he's a Met. He's been a Met. You can't really – it's hard to picture a guy anywhere else. Like right now, if you told me Clayton Kershaw signed with the Giants, like obviously that's an outrageous example, but you scratch your head a little bit like, what are we doing here? Pete Alonso, like I said, I mean, he's got the home run numbers, a 253 batting average, and 857 OPS. He's a guy as a part of the three true outcomes of baseball that we've kind of adopted the last couple of years of either a home run, a strikeout, or a walk. We know Camden Yards, they had that renovation recently that pushed back left field a little bit. Apparently, they moved it back in a little bit, but how does that affect Pete Alonso's numbers? His numbers in Camden Yards are great thus far. In 10 games, I think he has a 1.0 OPS plus that. But yeah, he's a guy who's finished top 20 in MVP voting 4 of those 7 years. Last year was his first Silver Slugger. Who would have thought? Because this guy mashed in previous years. He had 131 RBIs in 2022. That's a lot of runs driven in. He is going to make an impact on a Baltimore team that, again, is very good. Don't let this year fool you. Baltimore was good. They had a tough 2025, plenty of pitching injuries, and their core hitting offense all kind of took a step back or were dealing with injuries. When I say the expression of like, oh, anything that could go wrong went wrong, that was Baltimore's season. Like they had very little to kind of take away from 2025. It's almost like a blip in the core that they have right now. Their lineup as it stands is very good. And then you throw in Pete Alonso into that mix. I mean, it just adds a little bit of element to this Baltimore team. I mean, you're putting him with Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman, let alone guys like Colton Cowser and Jackson Holliday. Like it's a very strong lineup. And then you bring in Taylor Ward. Alonso, for the Baltimore, it's the second longest contract that the O's have ever given out. The first one, of course, being Chris Davis, if you remember that contract, and him as a player. It came out for the Mets that they didn't want to go past 3 years, which was kind of the factor that Alonso was looking for a little bit of, job security in that aspect. He wanted a long-term contract, or at least, something more long-term than what the Mets want to give out. Baltimore said, hey, we'll give that out easily. And next thing you know, Pete Alonso is going to be joining a stacked AL East between the likes of the Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays, even if you want to throw them into the mix because they can be a feisty bunch at times. Stays in the East, though, goes from New York to Baltimore. And, I mean, now we should really get into the aspect of the Mets, because the Mets, man, the Mets, baby, the Mets. Let me tell you, I have no idea what's going on with them. I have no idea what the plan is. I couldn't tell you what's going on in the head of, the team there and the management, higher ups. I don't understand it. You guys, I'm just going to run through a scenario this for you guys, just so you can comprehend as a baseball fan who isn't fully, enhanced with the Mets. It's hard to follow all 30 teams all at once. But you entered an offseason where you had just thrown away a division, a postseason appearance. Remember, the Mets were kind of battling with the Phillies left and right. Then they lost like 8 straight, lost a bunch to the Phillies. The Phillies started to run away with the division. They're like, okay, we'll settle for the wild card. All of a sudden, it's the last week of baseball. They're on the outside looking in. The Reds have their seed. Now you end up in an offseason where Pete Alonso is a free agent, Edwin Diaz is a free agent, Cedric Mullins, Tyler Rogers, Gregory Soto, Marte. The list goes on and on and on. They had a huge amount of free agents. So far, Ryan Helsley, who was a guy they traded for at the deadline this year to help them, doesn't help them. He signs with Baltimore. Now you have Pete Alonso, who just signed with Baltimore. Your number one reliever and one of the best relievers in baseball when right, Edwin Diaz, is now with the defending champion Dodgers, a team that you always have to beat, especially when you guys are in the NL. Cedric Mullins, who was another guy you added from the trade deadline, he goes back to the AL East. He signs with the Rays. We've got a list of guys here who are still free agents still that you guys can add. You traded away Brandon Nimmo to get your hands Marcus Semien, and you guys want to improve on your 2025. So far, you've lost Nimmo, Alonso, and Edwin Diaz, and you brought in Marcus Semien and Devin Williams. And I'm just sitting here saying those words out loud, trying to scratch my head and wrap it around it. What are you doing? What is the thought process? I mean, yes, you guys still have Lindor and Soto. Mark Vientos, he was this crazy candidate of 2024. Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Last year was shit. He had a tough year. Jeff McNeil, is he going to get traded? He's not going to get traded. Who knows what he is? He's right now the longest tenured Met. Alvarez, hey, we've seen flashes of this guy be really good. We've also seen him be hurt every year for at least a month or two. Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, that's what you guys have as your starting lineup. Young prospects who haven't figured it out at the major league level. And it's not like these guys are getting 5 at-bats a season. They're getting a good handful of, service time on these guys. You go to your starting pitching, okay, it's Nolan McLean, a guy who came up last year, shocked everyone with how good he was pitching towards the end of the season. Is that, sustainable into 2026? The Mets sure hope so. Kodai Senga, this guy was amazing last year. Injuries, sure, but when healthy, was tough. The bullpen, by losing Edwin Diaz, you're telling me you guys got better losing Edwin Diaz and bringing in Devin Williams? I don't think so. You're going to tell me Marcus Semien is better than Brandon Nimmo? I don't think so. You're going to tell me at first base, you guys are going to play what? Mark Vientos instead of Pete Alonso? I don't think so. For me, the Mets have gotten worse on every aspect. And, the Braves were similar to Baltimore in a way where we thought they were going to have a very good year. Injuries plagued them a lot. The Braves are going to be good this year, I think. Unless the injuries happen again and everything. But Braves in Baltimore will be much better than they were this year. The Phillies, obviously signing Schwarber, they're not going away. Heck, the Marlins had a surprising, increase of games and at the end of this year. The Marlins were close to a playoff spot even. So do you think right now on paper I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets finished 4th in the division? I don't know what the idea was here for the Mets. Obviously there's still guys in the market, guys that can sign. There's still ways that can turn this offseason around. But for right now, from what I'm seeing from Mets fans online and the whole shebang, this is going down as one of the worst off seasons in Mets history. And I mean, where did it all go wrong? I don't know what the idea is here. Why didn't you want to give Pete Alonso 5 years? He's proven to you guys multiple occasions that he is a great hitter and a great leader for your team. And I mean, I have no idea. Mets fans, sound off if you guys are worried about your team for next year, because I am for you guys. I mean, good luck. And speaking of the Braves, they went out this winter meetings, and they bring in not only one guy in Robert Suarez, by the way, they bring in Mike Yastrzemski as well. Both guys coming off okay years. Robert Suarez especially, he's a 2-time All-Star. He's getting paid by the Braves. It's a 3-year, $45 million deal. Those first 2 years with the Padres coming out of the bullpen, not really the closer, small appearances here and there. But towards the end of 2023, there were some flashes there that this guy could be something. He ends up earning the closer role in 2024, where he shelled out a 9-3 record, a 2.7 ERA in 65 games and 65 innings, recorded 36 saves. Very impressive in his first year as an All-Star. Last year, just as good, a 2.97 ERA in 70 games, where he pitched 69 and 2/3 innings. Picked up 40 saves on the season. He's a total of 77 saves, a 2.91 ERA in his 4 years with the Padres. Really solid stuff. Is a great, back-end piece there. And, for the Braves, I think this is a great addition for the bullpen there. You bring in a guy who has the experience that you're kind of looking for, albeit short experience. I'm not going to say Robert Suarez, 4-year career isn't the longest that we've seen for some players. But when I think of the top arms in baseball coming out of bullpens, especially closers, I would easily put Robert Suarez in the top 10, and you could make a case that, he could sneak into a top 5 spot. I would say more likely a 7. A 7 seems right. But if I were going to, off the top of my head, think of all the closes in the game, 7 sounds about right for Robert Suarez. But hey, when there's how many guys in a bullpen? 8 guys in a bullpen for a team, 8 times 30 teams. I mean, you've got plenty of bullpen arms. To say that's your top 10, even if he is 10th, that's still very impressive and a guy that you're going to want to have. Braves are very happy with that. Heck, I would have taken Robert Suarez over Devin Williams if I was the Mets. I have no idea what the Mets were thinking. Of course, that is off of recency bias because of how tough Devin Williams' 2025 year was with the Yankees. If we remove that year, I mean, Devin Williams is definitely top 5 and definitely better than Robert Suarez. But I digress. Robert Suarez hanging out. He joins this Braves bullpen. And joining the Braves lineup is Mike Yastrzemski, who signed with the Braves. It's a 2-year, $23 million deal. I love Mike Yastrzemski, by the way. I actually have a Giants City Connect, the old one, the first one, of Mike Yastrzemski. He's one of my favorite players, Loved him with the Giants. Kind of did hurt when he ended up getting traded last year to the Royals. He's now going to get his 3rd team here with Atlanta. He's been around the league since 2019. He actually was top 10 in MVP voting in 2020. Of course, COVID year, but he's had his ups and downs. Last year, definitely one of his tougher years. Only had 17 home runs. I say only, but that's about an average season for him. He usually gets somewhere between 15 and 20-ish home runs. Of course, 2021 was his best year with 25 home runs. Last year, an OPS of 735. Definitely, was and is an all-right ball player. I think for $23 million, the Braves have a really solid guy, really consistent. He's going to have his slumps, he's going to have his hot weeks, but all in all, you're going to get a guy here who, in a given series, he's going to go, 3 for 12, 5 for 14. Like, he's going to have that kind of stuff. You're going to see him take the extra base. He is just a very solid ball player. And for the Braves who, could use some depth, especially with the injuries of last year. I mean, if he does end up earning a starting job for the Braves, you've got Mike Yastrzemski in left, Michael Harris in center, and Ronald Acuna in right, if that's the play that they want to go for. Maybe they put Acuna as the DH. You could put Yastrzemski in right field and then have someone play left, like Profar. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Braves end up doing. Yastrzemski, for $23 million, just for a bench bat, you'd expect... you kind of scratch your head at that, but he'll definitely won't be an everyday starter. Definitely for the right-handed pitchers that the Braves will face, he will be in the lineup. But love this move for Atlanta, and I'm very happy for Mike Yastrzemski to have a job still and get that. You kind of get worried about that sometimes with guys who are on the older side of things. Of course, he's entering his age 35 season. Kind of got into the league late when he debuted in 2019. He was 28 years old. So, sometimes that throws off a player and throws off how you view them, because it's like, oh, when they're entering free agency for the first time, it's like, yeah, you think of them being 28 years old, 29 years old. No, he's 35. He's going to be 35. So definitely on the older side. But the Braves, Phillies get Schwarber, Braves get Suarez, they get Mike Yastrzemski. Mets, they lose Alonso and Diaz. Like, it's the way that it's shaping right now, and that's why people are worried. And if you're a Mets fan, I don't blame you. But I mean, proper stuff there from Atlanta. Good for you guys, and very happy for Mike Yastrzemski. And hopefully he has a fantastic year for Atlanta and helps them, take back the division from the Phillies. Moving on here, we're going to kind of speed through a couple of these because, again, the winter meetings have given us so much to talk about that I feel like we're already getting towards the second half to the end of the episode, kind of, and we've got so many still signings and trades to talk about and other news as well here. So we got a couple of pitching signings that went down Kyle Finnegan is where we're going to start here really quickly. He is staying with Detroit. He is staying on a 2-year, $19 million deal. Of course, this guy debuted with the Nationals in 2020, had a very fantastic 2024 where he was an all-star for the Nationals. That was partly because no one else in the Nationals was good that first half of the season, but he was very solid, and even into last year was pitching pretty decently with the Nationals. Nothing fantastic, though. Ends up getting dealt to the Tigers at the deadline, and he was brilliant for Detroit. In 16 games with Detroit, he pitched 18 innings, only giving up 1 home run and 3 earned runs. He had a 1.5 ERA in those 16 games with Detroit. Of course, we know they made the postseason and almost threw, did throw their division away, but almost threw more away. Ends up, helping them out in the AL wild card and almost past Seattle in the ALDS. He ends up staying with Detroit, and I think both him and the Tigers are happy with that. So Kyle Finnegan, Detroit for 2 years there. Gregory Soto, a guy who was, surprise, on the Mets. I mentioned that. He is no longer with this Mets team. He is heading to the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's a 1-year deal worth $7.75 million. Soto, of course, you're going to remember him in 2021 and 2022, where he led the Detroit back end. He was an all-star in both of those years with the Tigers. His first 4 years of his career spent with the Tigers, but from that point on, he got dealt around and he's moved around. He was with the Phillies for 2023. The Phillies traded him to Baltimore the following year in 2024, and then at the deadline this year, Baltimore shipped him off to New York. He was Cedric Mullins from Baltimore to Mets, Gregory Soto from Baltimore to the Mets. Now, the Mets give him Pete Alonso essentially, but I digress about that. Last year, with his time spent between Baltimore and the Mets, he had a 4.18 ERA. Definitely not one of his finer years. He is about a low 4 ERA kind of pitcher after those 2 All-Star appearances with the Tigers. Again, that was 2021 and 2022, so not even the best versions of the Tigers. He's probably an All-Star because the Tigers had no one else to give an All-Star appearance to. In his 7 years in the big leagues, though, he's got a 4.26 ERA. He has a total of 56 saves in 379 innings. He's an okay bullpen piece, and I think the Pirates are much better for it. So good for the Pirates for knowing how to get someone here. And I mean, 7.75 isn't nothing, but hopefully they can land a bigger fish. It's good for them to have been in on a guy like Kyle Schwarber, but they got to help out Paul Skeens, help out this offense here because they are moving in a direction that could be the right direction. They just need to do more. And Gregory Soto is a start, but it isn't going to change anything in the NL Central. But I digress there with Gregory Soto. More news here, more signings, more pitching. Steven Matz is signing with the Rays. He's getting 2 years for $15 million. So that's essentially 7.5 AAV if it's, a standard contract. Matz is going to go down as a player who, could end up in the Hall of Fame, Hall of Pretty Good. That's what it's called, right? Hall of Fame, Hall of Pretty Good. Thing on Instagram there. He's got 11 years in the big leagues. He debuted with the Mets in 2015. He's had a season in Toronto. He's had a lot of time in St. Louis here in the early 2020s here. He has been with the Cardinals from 2022 all the way into last year, where the Cardinals actually traded him to Boston, where he ended up finishing off the year there. So he's now entering his 3rd team in the AL East here, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and now with the Rays. The Rays, they do a good job at taking guys and, helping them tap their inner potential as pitchers. They do a very good job there. And hopefully for Steven Matz, that is the case. Last year, a 3.05 ERA in 53 games and 76 innings. was coming out of the bullpen more so in recent years, kind of a long relief kind of guy, comes in for 2 or 3 innings when the starter doesn't have it. But he's been a starter in his career. He's put up good numbers as a starter. Hopefully, it's interesting to see what the Rays will do with him, whether they use him as a back-end piece or if they use him as a starter. Like I said, he's never been an all-star, never been anything like that, has nothing to his name. The best thing that he has is finishing top 10 in Rookie of the Year voting in 2016 with the Mets. So yeah, hopefully the Rays can figure something out for him, whether he is coming out of the bullpen or whether he is coming out and starting games for them. I do like Steven Matz. I remember him in that 2021 year with the Blue Jays. I was a big fan of him that year. He actually had a really solid year that year, a 3.82 ERA, one of his best years in terms of ERA. So yeah, hopefully all the best for Steven Matz, and hopefully it works out for him and the Rays. Again, whether it's a starter reliever, I mean, $15 million. I mean, I would guess reliever, but, with the Rays, who knows? They do both. Last other kind of pitching move that happened throughout the winter market was Michael Soroka. Mike Soroka, he is signing a 1-year deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a $7.5 million deal. And I will always love Mike Soroka for multiple reasons. One is the fact that he is Canadian. And 2, it's for that 2019 year. I remember that year like it's yesterday. I go back and watch highlights from that year still. 2019, Mike Soroka at age 21 put up in a sensational year, finishing second in Rookie of the Year voting. He finished 6th in Cy Young and was an all-star. Then you had COVID, and then he was dealing with injuries, did not play in 2021 or 2022. When he finally got back, nearly missing all of 2023 as well, but did get some games in there. He definitely lost his touch a little bit, definitely have struggled. The Braves, with the immense pitching they had, ended up shipping him off to the White Sox to try to figure things out. Was tough there. And then last year, signs a deal with the Nationals. He was pitching okay, but the Nationals, they end up shipping him to the Cubs, where, to be honest with you, he looked good. Through 6 games, he had a start. He pitched about 8 innings or so. He only gave up 1 run in those 8 innings. Again, super small sample size, but then got hurt again. So I still believe in Mike Soroka getting back to that 2019. I mean, we're almost 8 years removed from that when you think about it. He was 21 in 2019. He's going to be 28 this year, so 7 years removed. And I still want to believe in that Mike Soroka, because that Mike Soroka was going to be my favorite pitcher. And I still love Mike Soroka, and I do love Arizona. So for me, this is great. I love this move. I hope it works out for both these guys. I hope Soroka figures it out and goes back to being a dog. And for Arizona, I mean, I hope they're able to challenge teams like the Giants, like the Padres, and maybe even the Dodgers. We'll see what kind of offseason they have still in store for us, because a lot of the trade talks have Ketel Marte being shopped around a little bit. And if the Diamondbacks trade Marte, I mean, who knows what that looks like. I do love Corbin Carroll. I basically love Arizona now. Sign me up, Diamondbacks. So yeah, Mike Soroka signing there. It's a 1-year, $7.5 million deal. So good stuff there. All right, so those were all of the signings that the winter meetings brought us. We had a couple of trades. The first trade actually happened before the winter meetings even got going. It was the first thing that I had here on the docket. If we didn't have as good of signings as we did, if we didn't get Schwarber and Diaz coming off the boards here, this is what I would have started with to begin this episode here. The Nationals and the Mariners made a trade that, I mean, let me just read it out for you first. The Mariners acquired Jose A. Ferrer, a left-handed pitcher from the Nationals. What the Mariners sent over for that, they sent over prospect Isaac Leon, a right-handed pitcher, as well as catcher Harry Ford, who is a top 100 prospect, who was a top 5 prospect in their organization, I believe. I think it was fourth, for Jose Ferrer. And for me, this isn't the Mariners got Jose Ferrer. This is the Nationals got Harry Ford. I mean, this is a guy. Harry Ford's a very up-and-coming prospect, and I think he is going to be very good. I know the Mariners don't really have much use because they have Cal Raleigh, but I mean, you could have Cal Raleigh do some DHing. You give him some more time off. Like, do you really want Cal to just keep catching every single game? He got called up in September for, the September call-ups. He had 8 games where he only had 8 appearances. He basically came in as pinch hitting each time. And in 6 at-bats, he had a hit and 3 strikeouts. So, I mean, that's the smallest sample size I think I've ever read. I think the Nationals fleeced the Mariners somehow. I don't know what the Mariners are thinking in this trade. I mean, Harry Ford is a top prospect. I mean, this is a guy that people talk about. You can make or break a team. And obviously, the Nationals have Keibert Ruiz. They have, I think Riley Adams is the name there as well. So there's some catchers that they have there. But Harry Ford he's going to play a part in this Nationals team in 2026, I think. And I think it's a great move for Washington, easily, because they're giving up Jose Ferrer, who, when I first saw the move, I was like, who? I honestly did not know this guy off the top of my head like that. He debuted just 3 years ago. He's 3 years in the big leagues, 2023, 4, and 5. He's only 26 years old, but in his time with the Nationals, he has a 0.5 WAR in 142 games out of the bullpen, basically 142 innings pitched. He's given up 69 earned runs, which is good for a 4.36 ERA. So yeah, the Mariners traded a top 100 prospect as well as another prospect for a guy who in 3 years has a 4.3 ERA. I just can't wrap my head around the deal for the Seattle side of it. In terms of player, obviously, if they needed to lose a 40-man roster spot, if they're signing somebody else, like there's aspects in between and like underneath the level that I can understand. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is their kind of hands are tied. They need to do something. Sure, there had to have been somewhere better or a player better than Jose Ferrer here. That's my thinking. But Nationals, they get a very talented prospect in Harry Ford, and hopefully it pans out. I do like Harry Ford. I remember seeing him a little bit when he was with Great Britain in the World Baseball Classic, which again is coming up this year. Very excited for that in March. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, good on the Nationals for finding a guy here. Another trade did happen as well towards the end of the winter meetings. So we had kind of starting the winter meetings was that trade. Towards the end of the winter meetings, we had a different trade. The Red Sox and Angels made a move. The Red Sox sent away Vaughn Grisham to the Angels in exchange for a prospect from an outfielder, Isaiah Jackson. So the guy here in the trade, the guy that we kind of know a little bit more about, is Vaughn Grisham. If you remember, the Braves, they called up this 21-year-old kid in 2022 to kind of make or break this team here at that time, and he showed up in a big way. The 21-year-old had a 7.92 OPS, 0.792 OPS. He had a couple of home runs, I think 5 or so. A 291 batting average. It was really solid stuff, so they were very happy with that. They entered 2023, and they weren't sure who was going to get the starting shortstop job. They ended up going with Orlando Arcia, but Grisham was around a little bit in 23 games, didn't have that same impact that he did have in 2022. He had a 280 batting average, a 659 OPS, didn't hit a home run, only had 9 RBIs. So definitely some steps back. So they ended up trading him to Boston in 2024. That was a part of the Chris Sale deal. Chris Sale went to the Braves, and Red Sox got Vaughn Grisham that year, who they gave a small sample size to, played in 31 games, where he only had 20 hits in those games. The numbers fell off hard 190 batting average, and a 465 OPS. Last year, didn't even get a chance to play in the major league level. Spent the entire season down in AAA and AA in the farm system, essentially. So Boston not seeing what they're liking. Angels seeing something that they think they can still tap into. Maybe play a little depth position for Zach Neto. Maybe end up moving him to second base. Whatever the case may be, they trade for him. So, Isaiah Jackson, Red Sox get a prospect, a different guy to kind of see if they can tap into anything there. And the Angels get Vaughn Grissom, who's going to be 25 this year, and hoping that they're able to kind of get him into big league material and hopefully shapes up. So we'll see how that pans out there, but that is the story with Vaughn Grissom and the Angels and the trade that was made. All right, so we did have one other announcement of a signing come up during the winter meetings. Zac Gallen signed with the Cubs. And then a couple minutes later, it was not yet, but they're apparently super close on a deal. And then 5 or 10 more minutes later, it was, no, they aren't done with a deal. They're not close. This was crazy. Who knew what that was about? We always have one or two of these every offseason where it's just like, oh, this guy signed. I remember when Michael Brantley signed with the Blue Jays and when Aaron Judge signed with the Giants. Like, you're going to get a couple of these every now and then. Funny enough, this was on the same day that Aaron Judge signed with the Giants. There was a report that Zac Gallen had signed a deal with the Cubs. Then it came out that it was hopeful and that they have a deal in place. There's just something missing. And then Jeff Passan put out a tweet saying, there is no deal. It's not close. And when Jeff Passan speaks, everybody listens. Everybody loves Jeff Passan. He is the best at what he does. I trust Jeff Passan more than anyone else, more than John Heyman and John Morosi and all those guys. Bob Nightingale. Give me Jeff Passan updates every day. Love Jeff Passan. He says no. Everyone listens. Zac Gallen, not signed. He is still on the free agent market. But I thought that was just a fun story that I wanted to share. Another thing that happened over the winter meetings here was the draft lottery. The draft lottery has happened. And drum roll, please, because even though the Rockies were the worst team this year because they got a top 3 pick last year, they don't get a top pick this year. The White Sox are your number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. They are the winners of the lottery. The top 10 picks are as follows. The White Sox are picking first. The Rays pick second. Twins pick third. Giants 4. Pirates 5. Royals 6. Orioles 7, A's 8, Braves 9, and Rockies 10. So a team like the Royals, a team like the Giants, they got blessed by the lottery here. A team like the Rockies didn't really get lucky at all. Neither did the Cardinals. They fall out of the top 10. So some interesting stuff there, but the White Sox are the big winners. They get the first overall pick of the 2026 draft. That was the lottery. That's how that went down. Another thing that happened over the week here, we had the contemporary Hall of Fame vote happen with the ERA committee. The only guy that was selected by the committee was Jeff Kent. He received 14 of 16 votes, and he has now joined baseball's Hall of Fame. So congratulations to Jeff Kent. We do know the other guys that were voted there. Carlos Delgado received 9 votes, so he did not get in. Don Mattingly received 6, and Dale Murphy received 6. So those are 3 guys will be able to be on the ballot the next time we do an era committee ballot. Guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Valenzuela all received less than 5 votes. We don't know exactly the amount. We just know that it was less than 5. They will not be eligible to be selected until 2031, and because the way it works and because of the rules and because everything happens, if they receive less than 5 votes again in 2031, that will be it. They will never be able to be elected into the Hall of Fame. Guys who hold the records, guys who, have plenty of players, people's favorite players, and just some of the greats. And players these days say these guys need to be in the Hall of Fame. It's a whole conversation that we could definitely have another time, but I just wanted to say that I think all 4 of these guys should be in the Hall of Fame personally. I think Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Valenzuela should all be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, to be honest with you, I think all these guys could. Carlos Delgado, Don Mattingly, both should be in the Hall of Fame as well. But the only guy they ended up picking, Jeff Kent. So congratulations, Jeff Kent. Let's see what happens in 2031, because I think all those guys need to get in. It would be a travesty if they don't, and it would definitely have a bad look and a bad taste in my mouth for baseball going forward here. Moving on, let's just get through this last little bit of news here really quickly, because we have entered the long parts of the episode here. I think we're past 50 minutes at this point. Jesus. The other news that happened, the other news that went down, there was a report that the Phillies have extended Rob Thompson as their manager through 2027. Of course, he took over for, I believe it was Girardi that they ended up firing. I forget who exactly, but Rob Thompson's been kind of in control as manager for the last couple of years, and he's been doing a pretty good job, and I think people have accepted him as one of the game's top managers, I'd say. I think he's a very good manager, and the Phillies think that as well, and that is why he's been extended through 2027. So he's got at least 2 more years with the Phillies as a manager there. And the other bit of news that came up was the return of the Mexico City Series. We know it's coming back. It will be played this year between the Diamondbacks and the Padres. It'll be 2 games on April's 25th and 26th. So if you're in Mexico City, you love baseball, you're excited, get excited for April 25th and 26th. See the Diamondbacks and Padres. Those are 2 good teams, 2 fun teams to see. So be excited for that. It's going to be a great series there for Mexico City. And ladies and gentlemen, that's our episode here today. Like I said, crazy long episode. Thank you to the winter meetings for getting the off season cooking. The stove got hot finally. We had some big, and I mean big signings. Schwarber, Alonso, Diaz, Suarez. Those are some big boy signings, and it does start to shape up other aspects of the offseason. There are still plenty of players still unsigned, plenty of top-end players. Guys like Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker. I mean, these are the guys that we're still waiting to see where the dominoes will fall. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for much, much more. But for today's big episode, big winter meetings, this is where we end up. Lots of big moves. But yeah, that is the end of that. So guys, thank you so much for tuning on into the episode today. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you, buddy, so much. And I will see you next time.